Tuesday, November 4th. The year is 2025. That's right, it's another day over here at Jortlandian. Sorry about some sounds here. Got someone fixing the HVAC. You guys can get over it though. We're only going to be listening to some things. Ben Shapiro said some stuff. Did you guys see my recent meme, the Oigle meme? I didn't put it on YouTube. I'm a little more protective of YouTube. It's on Instagram though. It's a kid looking up to the sky and it says, "Look, the symbol of America." And then it's a close-up of the eagle and he has a yarmulke on and a beak. It's a beak. Beak. Anyway, what's going on with y'all? Did you guys watch the debate yesterday with Chris Lestrange, Planet Peterson? I'm going to review some of that. I'm going to give some unsolicited coaching and feedback to Chris. At least it was a pleasant debate. It wasn't like a fight. You know what I mean? So we'll take a look at that because I think we can learn some things from that exchange. Some key things there to reiterate. Got to reiterate some things. Why? Because we have to train an army. We need to train a Jortlandian army to fight against lies. Evolution is a lie. Mormonism is a lie. Islam is a lie. So is Hinduism. Did you watch Andrew and the... Yeah, that was a mess, dude. That guy was one... I texted him. I was like, that guy was dumber than most of the OnlyFans chicks that, you know, were on whatever. That guy was dumb. He was pure single mama energy. That's all I saw in him. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna force it, you're gonna force the woman to have sex with the one husband, you're gonna force it out." You know? Andrew's like, "I didn't say force." "Oh, so you gonna force it and stuff? You can force that stuff?" No, shut up. It's almost like they deserve it. Anywho, did I see the Jewish lesbian preacher? I didn't see that, and you know what I'm actually fine at this moment not seeing it. Yeah, that guy sucked. What's his name? Coach something? He sucked. I'm surprised Andrew even went in person. Where were they anyway? It looked like they were in the lobby of Dick's Sporting Goods or something like this. Unhip Bone starts it off with a big fat $5. Thank you, Unhip Bone. Purely performative in his base. He didn't say anything. It was so frustrating. It's like Andrew, like, it's kind of like you try to give as much charity. You try to pretend at least you're debating with someone who cares what you're saying and is like going to listen and be like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I see what you're saying." And then they just don't. And then you're like, what am I doing here? More Mormonism debates, please. I'm trying. There's a guy named Kyle who said yes to a debate this coming Friday, again on Modern Day Debate, and then he backed out for some reason. I'll organize more debates even on my own channel. You know. So, who else? It would be fun to debate J.F. Gary Epi again on evolution. I debated him with Posh against him and Richard Spencer. Do you guys remember that? That's when I learned from Posh the approach of granularity versus vagueness. And the biggest weakness in evolution is just asking specific questions. How does this happen? Like, how does it actually happen? Are you debating uncarved block? No, he's a coward. He's very loud in his responses and his posts. He's also a nobody. He has like 400 subs. I'll debate anybody, though. But I'm just saying, he always nominates other people. He's, oh, why don't you debate this guy? And I'm like, dude, you're the loudmouth in the chat. You're the loudmouth making comments. You little waddling oval. You soulless football. Do you want more Mormonism info? I can. Well, someone did. Shout out to who sent me this book. This is great. Small little read. Fantastic. The Great Mormon Dilemma. This is like if there was a cheat code, you know, like the Almanac in Back to the Future 2 for Mormonism, this is it. This is the one. It's called The Great Mormon Dilemma. Lucifer's Restoration as dictated by the prophet Joseph Smith. Easy read, very digestible. This is killer. Uncarved Blockhead is objectively funny. He's a retard. He's an actual retard. Paying your taxes, thank you. Yeah, get your taxes in for old Jimbob here. Given that my HVAC is being worked on, I might be pulled away. I'm not sure. So let's make an aggressive push today, shall we? Chuck Norris says he knew a man in the West Ireland who owned a pack of Cetus. I figured so. So we'll start with Ben Shapiro, in fact. You know what I mean? He's getting all nervous now because his dialectic that he's been kind of cornered the market of this left-right stuff, keeping people's minds off of Zionism and weird, unjustified marriages to tiny nation states. And now he's getting all nervous because people are getting more popular who can adequately defend their anti-Zionist position, and you can't just call them anti-Semitic. Ironically, the same problem Ben Shapiro and company had years before and from 2016 on, right? People just say you're racist. Well, the new you're racist is you're anti-Semitic. And it's not even that new. It's just back in trend. Paying taxes, what do you think of the Evo Turd final bosses? There is none. It could be Dave, Professor Dave. It could be Forrest Valkai or any one of these guys. But it's impossible. You can't defend evolution from my questions. It's impossible. It's not even a matter of them knowing more stuff. They just can't do it. You can't do it. It's impossible. And my questioning is only going to get better, more rigorous, more pointed, sharper, less verbose. God willing. Oh man, if I can trim some fat into the babbling that comes out of my mouth, I will be an unstoppable force. Speaking of unstoppable forces, let's take a look at this little weasel.
They call themselves the Groypers. They are white supremacists. They hate women, Jews, Hindus, many types of Christians, brown people of a wide variety of backgrounds, blacks, America's foreign policy, and America's Constitution. They admire Hitler and Stalin.
That's probably true. I think that's fairly. There are definitely some good criticisms about Groypers, you know. From what I've seen or heard, they're very much like they're kind of like incels.
And that splinter faction is now being facilitated and normalized within the mainstream Republican Party. The main agent in that normalization is Tucker Carlson, who is an intellectual coward, a dishonest interlocutor, and a terrible friend.
Wow, why don't you go get your lunch and move to another table?
I think Tucker Carlson, I don't know what's dishonest. I mean, the only thing I've seen that was dishonest was, and potentially like, it was just like, I don't know, like maybe not wanting to answer it or something, was that statement about knowledge of his father being in the CIA. There was some inconsistency there where he said he didn't have knowledge, but then he did have knowledge. So, but other than that, Ben, I don't know if you have a good position here. By the way, when did you get your nose job?
And Tucker Carlson last week was aided, abetted, celebrated for normalizing Nazism within the Republican Party by the mainstay organization of the traditional right, the Heritage Foundation. Now, before we explain what's been happening, let's make one thing clear. This is not about free speech or cancellation. It was never about free speech or cancellation. Free speech has a definition, the right to speak free of governmental coercion. I believe in it, of course. I've always defended it. Criticism of bad speech is, in fact, just a form of free speech. Cancellation also has a definition, the banning of particular people, including people like Nick Fuentes, from platforms like X or Facebook. I believe that Nick Fuentes is odious and despicable, but I've never called for his cancellation, and in fact, I've called for his restoration to those services, despite the fact that I think he's odious and despicable. It is not cancellation to draw moral lines between viewpoints. In fact, we used to call that one of the key aspects of conservatism. It is not cancellation to refuse to signal boost Hitler's supporters like Nick Fuentes. It is not cancellation to criticize Tucker Carlson for rhetorically fluffing Nick Fuentes and other anti-American crackpots. It's not cancellation if you urge others to stop promoting those who rhetorically fluff Nazi apologists. Those are all elements of free speech. And anyone who says differently is lying to you.
What is wrong with this guy? It's like this guy wasn't adequately socialized. Like, you know what I mean? He wasn't assimilated to reality. What's the point? I don't get it. Why are conservatives, people who are proclaimed conservatives, why are they so afraid to say cancellation anyway? Who cares? Let's cancel it. Let's cancel people. I don't understand. What is this weird?
It's like, no, it's social pressure and social pressure and having an impact on the way in which these people develop their notoriety or lack thereof in society. It's like, yeah, why don't you just say it? It's canceled. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? I want to cancel people. I want to make all these degenerate people not popular. I don't want to see who is that whore who slept with 1 million people. Why do I have to see her? Cancel her.
This type of conservatism is done, Ben Shapiro. He doesn't realize where he's at. He still thinks it's 2016 and you're fighting this.
Well, the left cancels people and the right doesn't.
We're like, no, we want to cancel people. We want to cancel degeneracy. We want to shut down socially and through persuasion and law and force. It's not the same application for every category, but we have no problem saying it anymore. You do. You're done.
And lying for the most cynical reasons to misdirect from their own defense of those Nazi apologists and their promoters. The issue here isn't that Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on his show last week. He has every right to do that, of course. The issue here is that Tucker Carlson decided to normalize and fluff Nick Fuentes, and that the Heritage Foundation then decided to robustly defend that performance. Those who criticize both Tucker and Heritage aren't canceling. They are quite properly drawing a moral line.
Thank you, Edigal. 25 big ones from Canada. Thank you so much.
So, for those who don't understand what's going on, let's begin with Nick Fuentes. Now, as I mentioned, last week, Tucker Carlson had on Nick Fuentes. Fuentes is a 27-year-old man who's dubbed himself the leader of a movement called the Groypers. He has a large audience of alienated young white men in particular, and he's earned increased media attention over the course of the past few years, especially over the last year. Now, from Tucker Carlson's interview, you might have gathered that Fuentes has some borderline views on race, a peculiar obsession with what he calls organized Jewry, and a rather sad relationship with the female sex. But probably you came away thinking that for the most part, Fuentes lives on the radical edge of normality. You think that if you watch the interview, because Tucker Carlson decided that it was important not only to host Fuentes, but to smooth over his views, water them down, and make them far more palatable to a normal audience. As we'll discuss in a bit, this is what Tucker Carlson does for a living.
Well, I mean, Ben Shapiro, if Tucker Carlson, if you believe he's doing that, it would be on Nick Fuentes to sharpen them. And is Nick Fuentes sharpening? No, he's actually also softening his views. So this is like a one-sided critique here. You can look at Tucker Carlson in his interview, and he's like, I actually kind of have an idea of what you believe. I don't know if I share every belief, but I'm willing to hear it. It's like, now's the time. And Nick Fuentes is saying his spiel, but he's less sharp about it, right? He's less provocative. So Ben Shapiro has not been following Nick Fuentes, who went from a sharp katana blade to a dull, thuddy meat packer or whatever you call it. You know what I mean? So it's like it would be on Nick Fuentes in the conversation with Tucker Carlson for him to be like, no, don't try to soften. I can't do his voice yet. I almost don't want to. You know what I mean? This is so one side. What if it's the case? Now, I don't know if it's authentic or not, but what if it's the case that Nick Fuentes is actually softening his approach? That he's abandoning some of it. In fact, I've seen evidence, Ben Shapiro, that Nick Fuentes is just as annoyed with his base, which is stagnant, incelly, right? Culty, let's face it. And they're not doing anything. And it's stopping him. He knows. Nick Fuentes knows that it's stopping him from making his way back into at least the lobby of mainstream media. And so now that he has a chance to regain some position on the board, on the chessboard of mainstream media, whatever's left of mainstream media anyway, he's softening his views. You know what I mean? He's laying off that stuff. You're now taking Nick Fuentes, his views like a year, 2 years ago, and critiquing them now, but you know, that's not what's happening.
But back to Nick Fuentes. To understand just what Tucker did here, we must actually examine what Nick Fuentes says on his show, and has said for almost a decade, because he was asked precisely 0 questions about any of what you're about to see by Tucker Carlson. Nick Fuentes says women want to be raped.
A lot of women want to be raped. And when I say raped, I mean like, that sounds bad when I say it like that. But there's like a lot of women that really want a guy to beat the shit out of them. But also they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
Nick Fuentes says that his followers should kill, rape, and die in his name.
Raise your right hand. All right, everybody raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I will kill, rape, and die for Nicholas J. Fuentes.
Swap Nick Fuentes with Israel, and there you have the IDF, Ben Shapiro. Now, I don't condone what he's saying. That doesn't make sense. I don't know if it's a bit or a meme. It's not super funny if it was a bit. But, Ben Shapiro, I mean, come on. Be honest. What do you do when you swear in to the military in Israel?
That's terrible. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I can't believe that. Oh my God.
Oh, really? Would you like me to bring up? Hey, Ben Shapiro, why don't you bring up the grape videos that are available from the IDF, right? No? Okay. Didn't think so.
Nick Fuentes says that women are whores who shouldn't be in politics.
I will continue my crusade against women in politics. It's always
Hello, Abby.
like this, and it's so ironic. Women are like, I don't like, when you say, you have to affect the face. When you say to repeal the 19th Amendment, that offends me. That hurts my feelings. It's like, have you ever stopped and considered that maybe if you get offended, there's such a strong emotional reaction to political opinions you disagree with across the board. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you shouldn't be making political decisions. I'm not attacking women.
This has got to be from 2017. I mean, looks like he's running off a webcam. He's got a green screen. I mean, it's looking old.
I'm attacking whores. You have no problems, right? I'm attacking whores. I'm attacking sluts. Stupid, dirty bitches.
Nick Fuentes.
Obviously. I mean, I don't know if he's talking about my sister Abby, but it feels like he is.
Says that Jim
By the way, Abby, if you don't know, has the biggest knockers this side of conservatism.
Crow was actually better for black people.
It actually was. That's actually an argument you could make. There are conservatives who actually could make this argument. In fact, someone you probably promoted, Ben Shapiro, in the past, an little old black guy named Thomas Sowell, made a clear point that regardless of the ethical view of law-enforced segregation, the question of whether or not it produces better outcomes is irrelevant to whether or not it's moral or not for the law to be there. You'd think Ben Shapiro, after all his debating, would understand this distinction, that very well could be the case, that doing something that you find immoral, if you're just looking at the scoreboard statistics, you could actually argue that it produces better outcomes.
It was better for them too, number one, but number two, who cares? Who cares? You know, enough with the Jim Crow stuff. Who cares? Oh, to drink out of a different water fountain. Big fucking deal. Oh no, they had to go to a different school. Their water fountain in that famous picture was worse. Who cares? Grow up. Drink out of the fucking water fountain. It's just water. It's the same. You know? And, you know, even if it was bad, who cares?
Yeah, I was thinking that. Charlie Kirk even made that argument, didn't he?
Who cares? Who cares? It's better. It's better in general. We all agree it was better for them. It's better for us. Better in general.
Nick Fuentes says that white people are justified in being racist.
Reason that we talk about this, by the way, I know a lot of black people see this and they go, man, why are you always talking about black people, this and that? Because there just needs to be some shame here. Well, there's a few reasons. First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
That's not even that controversial, Ben Shapiro, which you probably do yourself. Where do you live, Ben Shapiro? Ben Shapiro is just like the liberals.
Nick Fuentes.
Dude, stop pretending, Ben Shapiro, that you don't abide by that. What are you talking about? You disagree with that statement? He said, if racism means a generalization that you're taking from induction, from a set of statistics, and you're going, well, no, I'm just going to generally try to ignore that, right? I thought you were all about facts. What happened to facts don't care about your feelings, Ben Shapiro? What happened to that? Right? I'm not even a Nick Fuentes fan. Like, to me, he's like the freaking Carson Daly of politics. But what he just said, he clarified. Racism means historically this view that the ontology, the very ontology of someone who's white or someone's black or someone else has a less value. That the ontology itself has a scattered value scale. Right? That's not what he said. He said looking at the stats, if racism means avoiding, then yes, I'm racist. That's what he said. You do that too, Ben. Where do you think you bought your houses? Huh? You're such a dishonest little weasel. And stop pretending you don't shave your unibrow.
Says is a Hitler admirer and a Holocaust denier.
Buddy, it's Führer Friday. It is Hitler Friday. Shut up. It is Heil Hitler Friday, nigga. Heil Hitler, all my niggas Nazis.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he...
And by the way, I think that clip, not that I find it interesting or unique or even funny necessarily, but that I believe that last clip was in reference to Kanye probably releasing a song. And there's this sort of like celebration that someone could release a song that's so provocative and goes in the face of this sort of like walk on eggshells culture. I see that clip as a mere celebration. Now, is it meaningful? Not really. Like, I don't really care. Like, I don't look at Kanye as some sort of beacon of truth or movement toward good.
So, I mean, I don't care.
Was also really fucking cool. So, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool. It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there.
Look, say what you want, but I mean, if you look at it just from the practical, I don't see why people don't engage with this. At least engage with it. You know what I mean? Like, at least Ben could be like, well, they were fast-baked cookies. Or half of the cookies went in the oven and half of them went into the ground. I used this. There was a specific kind of dough that melted quicker. They were tiny cookies, so they cook faster. You know what I mean? It's like, at least engage. He didn't notice how Ben Shapiro doesn't engage with it. He's just smearing this guy, and there's plenty to smear. I mean, you can go through his takes, and from any particular view, you could rip it apart. You could rip apart Nick Fuentes. There's plenty to critique there, but this is like virtue signaling. Like Ben Shapiro, who, got his fame, perhaps infamy, by debating facts and logic and being rational and reasonable about your approach. Well, I mean, there's nothing actually unreasonable about this hypothetical if you just engage with it. But I've seen this put on the table. Now, I don't really deal with it because, you guys already know, no matter how much I could list about the oigles, in the end, my goal is the pursuit and life of orthodoxy and getting people into Orthodox Church, not scapegoating. So, in the end, it's about splitting effort. It's like, what is your effort toward? But still, Ben Shapiro, you have no reason not to engage with this mathematical hypothetical.
The math doesn't quite seem to add up there. I don't think you'd result in 6 million, maybe 200 to 300,000 cookies. And I think the Red Cookie Association said something like that, probably 200 to 300,000 cookies baked, probably. And in addition, in this hypothetical, I imagine that if you took aerial photographs over the kitchens, you would need to see certain smokestacks to release the smoke from baking the cookies, and the smokestacks would project certain shadows, but I guess they're not visible in the aerial photographs taken over the kitchens. Moreover, if you look at the soil texture, it's really not deep enough for mass cookie storage underground.
Nick Fuentes believes that the Jews start all the wars, that perfidious...
Notice how he didn't address it. He could have said, well, it looks like Nick Fuentes is using a euphemism, which is kind of clever. Something that actually not too long ago, Roseanne Barr actually used in a joke as well. I'm not going to engage with the mathematical inconsistency of his hypothetical. Instead, I'm going to move along.
Jews in positions of power ought to be killed, and says the Jews are filth who have to be removed from the country.
And once again, remember who is responsible for it all: the Jews. They are responsible for every war in the world. It's not even debatable at this point. This has nothing to do with oil. This has nothing to do with...
See, I disagree with this because, yes, they are the charge, right? There's a charge. There's a salesman. Let's say a salesman. There's a salesman. You could say there's a salesman. But the problem, Nick, is that you can't offload responsibility wholly. You have to look at, dispensationalist evangelicals, right? You have to look at all of these people. Habitually, if you're going to look at this narrative, the bagel narrative, you have to look at it holistically. And holistically, what happens is there's ideas, let's say like Marxism, ideas, communism.
And you could see that there are people who sell this, who cultivate it. Yes, we can all agree. Those people, for some odd reason, happen to be of a certain ethnicity. But the problem, Nick, here is that you can't say sole responsibility, because also included in this historically is a lot of non-bagels who buy into it and participate, and they need the non-bagels. In fact, that's a part of the paradigm. If you look at like Marxism or the what was that institute that they started, like Durkheim and all those guys, a Frankfurt School. If you look at like that stuff, you could look at it and go, oh, there's a source of this ideology and the beginnings of it. But you look at all the people that get kind of drafted into it, they mix it all in, right? So you can't just blame one group. You can point, you can name them. I have no problem with that. It's just that this reductionist view, this is why someone like Jay is an important feature in this commentary, and he always gets crap for it because he takes way more nuanced approach. Because he's smart. Because he knows there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of historical variables, geopolitical variables, military, resources, all sorts of stuff going on. You can't just be like, look at the goblin noses. They're doing it again. That's not enough. That's only one chapter. You can't just rest on that, man. It's getting old. You know what I mean? Because you know how there's like, fatigue. People say J fatigue or the N fatigue or the this fatigue or the gay fatigue and all the rest, right? I've got Mormon fatigue. Well, if it's not sorted and you don't move to something that you're positively arguing for, instead you're negatively arguing against, there's then the fatigue of the fatigue. And now we're in there's like a new chapter of American politics where now that it's okay to call out the Jays and talk openly, which is seen by Nick and people probably in my own chat here as this accomplishment. Finally, we broke free and now we could talk open. Well, the problem with it is that's great until that becomes the thing we get fatigue over, where it's like, oh my gosh, if I hear one more list of Steins and Bergs from an unmarried, childless man who's dressed in a suit, if I hear one more bitching and whining from a unmarried, childless man in a suit listing the names of Bergs and Steins and Eidelmans and the rest, I'm going to lose it. Get your life together. Get your house in order. Are you pushing anybody into the church? Which church is it? What are we talking about here? It's just so stupid. It's like a video. It's like people participating like it's a video game. Like they go into the video game and instead of it being Battlefield and they're all in a group playing, right? They're playing this like sort of intellectual game of who could name the culprits. And they all play together and then they high five and then they go eat their freaking Lunchables. It's like, get a life. Get a wife.
Democracy. This has nothing to do with liberal internationalism. We are at war with Iran because they pose a threat to Israel's hegemony. That's why we're bombing their nukes to pave the way for regime change so Israel can dominate the region because that makes them the most powerful they can be.
There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. So many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country, they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever.
Review Andrew's debate with Coochie Adams. It was too brutal. Honestly, it was too much. I'm going to move off of this in a second. I just wanted to, Ben Shapiro, does he have any solutions? Or is he just going to whine? Like, this guy mad, this guy mean. He say bad things. He shouldn't be on The View.
into the twisted mind of Nick Fuentes. And there's plenty more where that came from, of course. Hours of it per day, in fact. And there's no doubt that Nick Fuentes has a lot of play these days. That's because the left, by moving into a politics of anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-male identitarianism, created its bizarro mirror image, a white pseudo-Christian incel identitarian movement dedicated to destroying the institutions of this country and replacing Americanism with something else.
Well, they might be incels, and they might be noticers and name-ems, ultimately. They might be people who aren't making families, who aren't living the life that they're claiming everyone else should live. Sure, Ben, I'll give you that. But if you think that classical liberalism and the society we have, which is basically a fertile ground for pluralism, if you think that's good or is going to make it, Ben, you are lost, dude. Now, keep in mind, Ben recently said he would, now he was probably joking, but, you know, he really shouldn't tell jokes. But he was like, you know, if I could, I would alter the citizenship law for presidency if I could make Bibi the president. I mean, dude, that's crazy because people in Israel, the majority of people in Israel don't even like Bibi. You freak, you little freak weasel. Look at that stupid kippa. I'm just tired of the Jukon right telling us that being American first makes me a Nazi. Well, that's what this is all about, right? This is a lot of what we see is frameworking. It's just constantly frameworking. It's selling a framework back to the audience so that they know how to engage. They're trained to engage with people. Oh, that guy's a bad guy. Here's a good guy. That's the right, that's the woke right. There's a soft white. There's a good white. There's a bad black. Here's a good black. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's constant framework. And I'm not even saying framing is bad. I do framing. Speaking of.
Jimbob.
Yeah?
My Jewish friend was getting very aggravated listening to you. He
Good.
said that you can't make things nuanced. He was complaining about Jesus Christ exposing the leavening strategy. It only takes a little bit of yeast to fill the whole loaf.
Wow.
Kind of like one poop particle can make a whole room stink.
I knew it. I knew everything. I knew everything she was about to say was going to come down to feces. Every single time with these guys, ladies. Clean up your country, Vagine. I mean, you know what I mean? Just clean up your country. So yeah, it's like the framing makes it hard, like Colin Rock said. Like, if you take a position where you're for America, you have to tell us what America means. So it's this, what I said before is the competition for preserving an idea of America or an actual operating system called America is going to be between conservatives who call themselves conservatives, you know, and they're going to battle it out. Ben Shapiro thinks he's a conservative. If I were to use the word conservative for myself, I would say, no, he's a classical liberal. He's conserving pluralism. He's conserving something. He's conserving a notion of the U.S. that doesn't constitute a way of life. I was thinking about this yesterday. When it comes down to it, it's a way of life. I saw an image. I don't know if it was in Miami or something, but you know, these people came from the state to check out an apartment because it looked condemned, but there were these Haitian people living in it. And when they were approached on the condition of their house, they probably renting their apartment or whatever, they were confused. They were like, no, this is just how Haitians live. So, you know what I mean? That's just how they live. So I was thinking, well, look, in the end, it's not about liberty. In the end, it's about coercion, force, and social pressure on around organizing a way of life where you say, no, this is how we do things. I don't know if America ever had a time that was more than 10 years or you know, 2 decades at most, where they can point to the identity of the culture and say, this is how we live. This is how we do things. There's a way in which we do things around here. That's why church is so important. When you go into an Orthodox church, there's no question that there's a way in which things are done. And us as children who are grown up, children of God, need the same sort of boundaries, the same sort of guide rails that children seek while simultaneously rebelling against. They still seek the guardrails. Those guardrails are not just law. This is where people get mixed up. They think, well, yeah, we're going to use law, of course. Law helps. But there's something deeper about a people's, about a nation, about an identity of people that beyond law, they think, they know, they identify, this is how we do things. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Like if you go to Italy, I always use this, right? You go to Italy and there's these 2,000-year-old fountains and just statues and beautiful busts, and it's just insane. You're like, look at this. It's in the middle of this modern world, and it's untouched. It's not around. There's no glass around it. There's no cage around it. It's not protected by anything. You think as an American, this would never last. This wouldn't last a week. The reason is it's not because of law. It's not because they're going to bring you into the Colosseum and chop your head off if you throw a brick at the Trevi Fountain. You know what I mean? It's because what's embedded in their very identity, their very being as a nation is this is how we do things. We don't do that. We pick things up. We protect our history. It's just embedded. It's inherited. And this is the war, right? The ideological war that we're in is, yes, good and evil, but it's also how do you practice good and evil? How is it manifest in the world through practice, through iconography, through images, through culture, through behaviors, through what you permit, through what you don't permit? This is all a reflection of your ideology. Ben Shapiro, I got some sad news for you. Liberalism is insufficient as an ideology. Pure classical liberalism. Liberty, justice for all. That is insufficient. And everyone's figuring it out but you.
Nick Fuentes' philosophy is not fully formed. It's an incoherent stew of malignity. But that's where Tucker Carlson enters the story. Now, since his exit from Fox News in 2023, when, of course, he was a very, very popular host, Tucker Carlson has turned himself into a conspiracist and a crank and a pathological liar. Tucker excuses Vladimir Putin's murderous and barbarous reign. He has even become one of his most ardent defenders.
It is so much nicer than any city in my country. I had no idea. My father spent a lot of time there in the 80s when he worked for the US government and barely had electricity. And now it is so much cleaner and safer and prettier aesthetically. It's architecture, it's food, it's service, than any country, city in the United States that you have to, and this is non-ideological. How did that happen? How did that happen?
How did you make it such a pretty well? How did you make such a pretty bench? Your guys' benches are beautiful. It's like I want to sit on a bench forever.
And at a certain point, I don't think the average person cares as much about abstractions as about the concrete reality of his life. And if you can't use your subway, for example, as many people are afraid to in New York City because it's too dangerous, you have to sort of wonder, like, isn't that the ultimate measure of leadership? And that's true, by the way, it's radicalizing for an American to go to Moscow, I didn't know that, I've learned it this week, to Singapore, to Tokyo, to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Because these cities, no matter
He's a crank. He's a crank.
how we're told they're run and on what principles they're run, are wonderful places to live.
So I guess you put in 10 rubles here and you get it back when you put the cart back. So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it and not just bring it to your homeless encampment. I went from amused to...
I'm sorry. Hey, Ben Shapiro, I'm having a hard time seeing why any of this is bad.
legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody hears from the United States, buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about $400. It was $104 US.
Americans don't have those. They have magnetic ones that if you move, if you break the proximity threshold, the wheels just stop. So you'd have to pick it up and move it, which homeless people would not do.
Here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought, corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us.
When Tucker Carlson interviewed Vladimir Putin, by the way.
I don't get it, Ben Shapiro. What was that clip for? What were you trying to establish, dude?
Look, they have a clean city. Look, they're mostly white. Look, they don't tolerate all of this plurality. Bad. Bad and wrong. Bad and wrong. I mean, look at this. Look at this. They have a shopping cart that you put a quarter in and make sure that you return it. It's like, that is absolutely communism. I mean, this is like the Red Scare all over again.
Vladimir Putin was so amused by Tucker Carlson's easy questioning that he actually mocked him. Tucker Carlson has massaged the Iranian dictatorship and admitted to not asking any difficult questions of the president of that dictatorship.
The interview is limited by a couple of factors. One, it was done by remote through a translator. That's always
did you know, Ben Shapiro? I don't know if you're new to the world of media. I don't know if you're new to the world of media coaching. I don't know if you're new to, I don't know, doing an interview where you have to set up preconditions beforehand, like things like, this is what I'm not going to talk about. Don't bother asking me. If you ask that question, I'm going to walk out. There's a lot of interviews that go like that before they start filming, Ben Shapiro. Why are you pretending? Why are you pretending? I don't understand. Like Ben Shapiro doesn't know this? Of course, dude, especially at the highest level. The higher the level you go with someone's influence, power, notoriety, the more likely there's a list of things you cannot ask. That's just the reality, dude. You little weasel.
awkward. For another, I don't speak Persian.
Shapiro misses the day.
Yeah, bye. You know, some good reading, some good calm reading at night when I have trouble sleeping, putting my little eyes to sleep. What I read is some of the accounts of the Romanovs being executed. I mean, you know, there's nothing more flattering. There's nothing more accommodating to my feelings, to my inner sense of self, than you know, the Orthodox patriarchs being annihilated. I mean, oh, those were the times. Sometimes I want to go camping with my children, but I don't actually do stuff like that. And I think about, what if I told them a story about that? What if I told them my account of Christ? I mean, these are the things. This is the stuff that bonds me to my children. Yeah, and I was about to say my wife, but she sleeps in a different room.
And there are all kinds of questions that I didn't ask the president of Iran, particularly questions to which I knew I could not get an honest answer, such as, was your nuclear program totally disabled by the bombing campaign by the U.S. government a week and a half ago? There's no chance he's going to answer that question honestly. I didn't bother to ask it. The answer, in fact, from an American perspective, even from the CIA's perspective, is unknowable.
I actually don't know why Ben Shapiro is coming after me. I could totally kick his ass in person. Come at me, motherfucker. It's like, it's like you're tiny. It's like, what are you even going to do?
Tucker bizarrely worships at the altar of Qatar.
They're mad at you because you don't put your parents in some institution. Maybe they're trying to break up your families.
Well, it can be a reason. Honestly, I don't know.
God, man, I want to have a picnic on his head. I want to cut some apples, maybe some watermelon, pour some wine out of a carafe. Hey, lay down for me. It's picnic. I just want to have a picnic. I didn't know we were having a picnic today. I mean, it's a beautiful day outside, but I'm happy, more than happy to have a picnic with you here. Where do I sit? Do you have any brie?
What is really the purpose behind this? But
I'm sorry. I can't stop looking at your hat. Is that what you call it, a hat?
It reminds me of Back to the Future.
We see that, a lot of things that are happening are attacks on humanity in general. It's when you lose the family value, when you lose the connection between the family themselves, you will lose the connection between the people as well, on a broader level, on the people in the same neighborhood, on the people in the same region.
I don't actually understand what you're saying. Can I get a translator? TechnoSurf, $10. The reason a lot of Westerners don't have a problem with Putin is the double standard. He's not an angel, but Ben's saying he's a murderer while defending Bibi as a joke. Yeah, it's just gaslighting, dude. Their gaslighting techniques don't work anymore. People are learning to view things where they're necessarily nuanced, they view them that way. Where they're necessarily sharp and black and white, they view them that way. And, Ben Shapiro and his whole grift has relied on these very sharp, only sharp dialectics. Left, right, Israel, no Israel, Jew hater, Jew lover, and so on. And he's just running out. He doesn't have any more tools in his tool belt, his little tool belt. He ran out. The gig's up, dude. Everyone sees through you. Honestly, I don't know who he's maintaining at this point other than like 45, 55-year-old men. 60 maybe. The remnants of like that faux conservative, classical liberal group of people, People are growing out of this stuff.
The same countries. And that's basically will just make us, as individuals who are, quote unquote, independent from anyone. That's what we will feel. Yet.
Yeah, why is this bad, not a bird? I don't know.
It will just make our society.
Are we still not talking about Abby's knockers? Look, everyone has seen Abby's knockers. Everyone.
Society is vulnerable and easy to be penetrated.
That's right.
Tucker Carlson praises Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, even as Maduro keeps the entire country in communist penury and ships fentanyl into the United States to kill Americans by the hundreds of thousands.
Oh, who runs the fentanyl companies, Ben? Oh, don't say it. Don't say it. Oh, don't you dare. So he can say Venezuela as a country, as a people, right? Their government or whatever is responsible for that. And then you go, well, let's look into that. If now that we're naming names, Ben.
Why are we so opposed to Nicolas Maduro? So if you ask someone on the street, random person, why are we against Nicolas?
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
Okay, buddy.
Nicolas Maduro, the answer you're going to get is, who's Nicolas Maduro? But if you find someone in South Florida, for example, who knows who Nicolas Maduro is, who can identify where Venezuela is on a map, that person will almost certainly say, well, because he's a communist or a socialist, he's exceedingly left-wing, and that is true. Nicolas Maduro and his government are very left-wing on economics. Not on social policy, by the way, which is kind of interesting. In Venezuela, gay marriage is banned, abortion is banned, sex changes for transgenderism are banned.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the very few countries in the entire hemisphere with those policies. It is on social policy, not defending the regime, just saying, one of the most conservative countries in North or South or Central America. Only El Salvador really comes close.
Tucker Carlson glosses Hamas, the genocidal
Did you hear an effing thing that he said? Did you hear his reasoning? Did you hear his nuanced position? Did he not say, let's look at these core issues that have to be ultimately taken by force, by authority? You have to declare these things and say, this is no longer the case. We will not be killing our babies. We will not be transitioning people. We will not allow people to wear dildos on their head in a pride parade in front of children. We will not be teaching homosexuality in our schools. This guy's such a fucking worm, dude. Look at his little demonic worm face. Little shit. Tiny little shit. Just totally glosses over the distinction. Tucker Carlson said it. He literally said it in the clip, you little whack job. He literally said it. He said, I'm not defending. He's not defending it. He's saying these are the good things. Now, what's the distinction here? That's a fair question. What's the distinction? The distinction is a majority-based people who have a majority market share of the arm of force and legislation who go, this is no longer okay. We're not doing this anymore. That's what we're talking about, Ben. We're not talking about the optics of like, oh, look, he partially likes this red country. He partially likes things that this communist regime does. He didn't say all of it. He said some, and he actually listed it, dude. You little sneak. You little pipsqueak.
Jihadi group behind October 7th as a political organization.
God, just stop with the Ben Shapiro. Dude, if I see the Ben logo one more time, I'm gonna fire up a train.
You can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists.
Actually, Tucker does support it. He just said it with his own words, dude. Now, whether he does or not, what he just said, that's the clip that was shown, and Ben Shapiro just totally ignored his distinction. He said he listed the things that he favors. Right? He listed them. He just said them.
Extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al-Qaeda.
Oh, gosh, please stop showing that stupid logo. It's the ugliest shit I've ever seen, too. I mean, look at it. Talk about too much information. Let's just look at a little sidetrack, little aesthetic sidetrack here. Watch. Oh, it's not on the screen. It's like says Ben. It says Ben Shapiro in a signature, and then it says the Ben Shapiro show underneath the signature. It's like, bro, chill out.
Carlson has
we know your name.
Attacked President Trump as a cover-up artist for sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein on behalf of Israel and Mossad, making sure, of course, never to mention President Trump's name, because, of course, Tucker's a coward.
And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that.
I disagree. If you say that about my country, the one that I'm sworn to. By the way, in Israel, if you're a citizen, you can't swear yourself to two nations. You can't split it. You can't split your loyalty. So when people ask me where is my loyalty, I just simply say I don't know. Actually, no. I think I lost it in the basement. And that actually, sure, it depends where I am. Depends what time of the day it is. Yeah. So
Tucker Carlson has stated that President Trump has undermined America First and MAGA by attacking Iran, giving in to neocon ghouls like Mark Levin, while also idiotically arguing that President Trump striking Iran's nuclear facilities would lead to World War III. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Tucker Carlson also said in his interview with Nick Fuentes that the people he hates most in the entire world, more than ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Trans-Tifa, Marxist...
Looks like a gay GQ. He does. It's like if there was a gay GJQ.
Rapists, murderers, are Christian Zionists.
JQ magazine. Has anyone ever done that? That's actually funny. Someone must have. That's too obvious. Someone must have done that. A JQ magazine where it's Ben Shapiro on the front with his shirt open. JQ. I was on the cover of JQ magazine.
Who represents an enormous chunk of the conservative base. According to Tucker Carlson, who admits that he first read the Bible all the way through just 2 years ago, Christians who support a Jewish state of Israel are heretics and blasphemers with a brain virus.
Yeah, the brain virus is called Darby dispensationalism. I was going to say non-sensationalism. It should be called non-sensationalism. So, yeah, what's wrong with that, Ben? Ben is just, oh man, he's made a killing off of these evangelical retards. He's made a killing off of these dispensationalists. These people who think Israel biblically is the nation state. What a trick. That, by the way, that's over. Cat's out of the bag. It's always been out of the bag, but people, I don't know why it took so long to remove that curtain, right? I'm not sure why it took so long.
How do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all. George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen like be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish.
It is a brain virus. That's what it is. That's called a hyperbole, Ben. Something as insanely dumb as Darby's dispensationalist outline of Christianity and this flawed lie sold to people who call themselves Christians that Israel is a nation state as opposed to the true seed of Abraham, Christ, and his church. This is getting corrected all over the place, and people are doubling down. This is how you know something nefarious is at play. Why? Look at the people who have been corrected on this. Have you guys seen them on X? You get like Brandon Tatum. There's a whole list of influencers who are right-leaning conservative influencers who get corrected on this over and over and over again. And they just don't care. It's almost like they're paid not to. I'm just saying. It looks like it doesn't matter. Like, this is it. Don't let those people say Israel's not, the biblical Israel. Clearly in Genesis, they were referring to the product of the Havar agreement, right? Clearly they were referring to 1948. It just didn't happen yet. It was a prophecy. Genesis was a prophecy about the nation state of Israel in 1948.
Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that?
Right.
And I could just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody, because like, what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian.
Well, I mean, you're a Lutheran, so I mean, thanks for saying it, Tucker, but come on, let's not get too crazy here. It's like I don't agree with heresies. I couldn't call myself Christian if I believe in heresies, but I myself, I'm a Lutheran.
Carlson has said that he despises American Jews who care about October 7th. We, in his words, don't care about America and also want to get his kids killed in a foreign war.
Yeah, dude, the overuse of the Ben thing, it's good to see. It's like his production value is crashing to the ground. Nice sweater, by the way. Looks like an SNL character.
I've got 4 draft age children.
I actually just quilted my first hammock. Put some cookies in the oven. And I don't mean those kind of cookies. I know that they're going to take me out of context, but I don't really care. Because I like cookies.
Children. So if you're playing recklessly, fast and loose with their lives.
You know what's funny? There's no way the HVAC guy doesn't hear me right now.
Then I have...
He just keeps hearing like these wild, yelpy laughs. Poor guy. Probably like, he's probably like, I gotta get the hell out of here. I gotta get out of this house. I gotta fix this thing faster. I said it was gonna take maybe 7 hours. But I'm out of here. And the vent is right there. You know he hears this.
A right to despise you, and I do. So if you're Nikki Haley, who's running for president, or Ben Shapiro, or half the people I see on television casually mentioning the possibility of nuclear war or sending Americans to fight in the Middle East.
What is that get up, dude? Tucker Carlson is dressed like he's going to read letters to Santa.
Or in any way involving us in a war that has nothing to do with prosperity and peace at home, nothing in other words to do with us, Americans, then I have a right to call you out and be really offended because it's my family. They live here. It's not a joke to me. There's nothing abstract about it.
But most of all, Tucker Carlson acts as an ideological launderer for other people's evils. Tucker Carlson says many inflammatory things, always buying back just enough of it to appear as though he's not saying what he's clearly saying. He's a master of gaslighting. Tucker Carlson.
Oh, that's rich, bro. That is rich, Ben. I almost can't. Dude, this is only half. I honestly can't do it. I'm getting enraged by this guy.
I just get so mad. I just get so mad. I just get so mad.
I can't do it. This guy's the worst, man. He's the worst. Oh, you're just such a lying little. Look at his little stupid face. Look at his freaking gelled hair. I mean, you are a caricature, dude. I can't take it. Again, this is halfway. This is all. Dude, this is only half. I can't do it. Sorry, guys. You got enough. You got some good impressions in there. You got a couple of burns in there. I can't do it. I can't expose myself to that much, Ben Shapiro. Terrible. He's a terrible dude. He's a terrible little dude. He's terrible. You know, he reminds me of like some sort of like, you know, like children's cartoons. There's always like the sneaky fox character, you know, who comes around the corner. He's like, yeah, how would you like to make a deal? There's always some Faustian deal coming from the fox. How about you take a trip back to my hall? Let's check it out. I hear the vegetable. I feel the foliage is good by the river, down by the river. Do you want to come down by the river with me? Why do you talk like that, bro? What do you mean? Fox and logic. Let's do this. You missed your super chat? Okay, sorry. Yeah, let me get the super chats. I was in it. Hold on a second. Little freaking demonic fox. I need to schedule my... I need to schedule my confessions. Seriously, I'm going to email today. It's getting bad. You guys. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah. Let me see. Who owns the fentanyl? Exactly. Techno reason. I got that. I put my pants on. Yeah, Justin. I put my pants on. Holy moly. Holy cow.
That is a big super chat.
Silent majority coming in with a whopping $100 super chat. He probably also doesn't like Ben Shapiro as much as us, the rest of us. Thank you so much, Mr. Generous himself, silent majority. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, man. What a generous super chat. Give that guy some W's. Thank you so much. That's great. Brings me to 17 of 50. Just under 2/3 left of the stream goal. Thank you so much. Okay, defending Bibby, murderer, Justin, put my pants on. TB, can't wait to see Ben in 10 years reviewing all the things you've said. He definitely knows I exist. He probably doesn't remember my name, but by me, he knows the memes. Good to see you, Jimbob, Jortlandia. Thank you, Justin. Don't be enticed by the Khazar milkers. Don't be enticed by the Khazar milkers. They'll ensnare you into giving your life for Israel. Thomas Sowell. Oh, sorry, I used the wrong voice. Thomas Sowell, is he still alive, by the way? He's getting wheeled around somewhere, isn't he? Thomas Sowell is probably experiencing the government-funded program of old age homes right now. Loved your debate. Despite my disdain for low-tier Evo stuff, that was the best they got, bro. I'd even say Sam Harris is Reddit tier, but those are some buckaroos. Yeah, dude, it was bad, Ken? Sorry, hold on. Ken? Colonel. Yeah, it was bad. They're all bad. We're going to actually look at another debate here.
about evolution because it's one of my favorite topics. Give to Jortlandia. What is Jortlandians? That's correct. Thank you, Dano, for your work visa. Derek, paying your taxes. Oh, yeah, the Evo final boss. Yeah, I mentioned that. Where is it, dude? You said I missed one? I don't see it, dude. I don't see it. What did he say? He said nothing, too. Silent majority said nothing. That's like extra awesome. It's an extra awesome super chat. You guys gonna let that go unmatched? You're gonna let silent majority take all of the valor? Unbelievable. Have I seen the recently Rob Noor video? Oh, where that chick was calling Andrew. She was saying Andrew. Did she say Andrew? At least use good rhetoric. Andrew. Yeah, I saw that. You missed mine. You just read it. Oh, thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it. Yeah, I saw it. It was just, I mean, it's all pulling at the insane people. And what I see now is like very early on, this happens where people break through to a bigger audience. There's Andrew's done several streams on this. It's called counter industry, where your actual money to be made and your notoriety comes in the form of the counter to that person. That's all. It's not what you're making. It's not the particular way in which you critique people or, whatever you're bringing to the table. It's purely counter against what other people might not like, whether it's a person or a thing. And so you see more of that. So I look at that stuff and I'm like, dude, that is it's just low tier and so telegraphed. And they're trying to milk it, right? They're trying to totally milk it. They're like, oh, we had this blowout with Andrew and Rob and this like sort of minuscule debate sphere that it's still like an infant, right? That whole debate sphere is like in its infancy. Early on, totally reliant on Andrew bringing people over, and now it's kind of undermined. And now what are you left with? You're left with the bottom of the barrel in debaters, in moderators, in commentators. You're left with nothing. Unhitbone, another $5. Thank you so much. Gets me up to 18. All right, let's look at this because I want to help Chris Lestrange. He didn't ask me, but I don't care. I watched this, and I want to examine for all of you because, if you are against evolution, but you want to build up your tool belt and be able to really fight against it on the fly with anybody, I feel like reviewing other debates is going to help you do that. And I would consider it my favorite specialty category of debate because it's so insanely dumb. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel to debate against evolution. You don't need to try to take and make your own unique approach. It's actually a disservice. So let's take a look here. Shout out to Chris Lestrange for taking the debate and Planet Peterson. And we'll see. We'll take a look. We'll go through his opener, Peterson's opener, and we'll see, where it could be improved. And, ultimately I'm looking for one thing. If they show you their neck, you cut. If they show you their neck, you cut. You take it. It's an unfortunate analogy, but it's true. Planet Gooberson. I think Planet Peterson's one of the more well-behaved of these, like, sort of this atheist group of people, at least. You know what I mean? I feel like I could have a beer with him. His voice, it sounds like he sounds like a professional cheerleader. I don't know why he talks like that, but overall, he seems more, at least reasonable in his approach.
Evolution has done this. I'm currently reading a book on the history of evolution and how it was developed. Impossible Monsters is the name of the book.
Yeah.
It's really good. It starts with before Darwin. It goes all the way back, I think, into the Greeks who.
Does it go to Hinduism? Because evolution is Hinduism for atheists.
Had ideas about the history of life on Earth and how it changed, and how people before Darwin came up with ideas about evolution that ended up being partially true, but lots of those things were false. Goes over the history of how fossils and geology basically inspired and shaped the initial ideas that Darwin came up with. And then it goes over Darwin's publication.
Sure it does. Narissa Jones, 20 big buckaroos. Thank you, Narissa. Paying for all the men who can't do it themselves. Thanks, JB, for putting together this bed entertaining. Thank you so much for that. But clades, the clades. Now, I actually posted a premised argument to Peterson that stumped him. I'll skip to that toward the end because I thought it was kind of funny.
The backlash he got, the praise he got for it, and sort of the big cultural questions about how society dealt with that, either accepting it or rejecting it. It's pretty interesting. But I think that, so I'm not telling this story just to waste time. I think it's actually a critical and important part of this. Evolution is a very old idea. The modern sense of Darwinian evolution is over 150 years old, if I can do my math right. Yeah, it's getting close to 170 years old.
That's not old.
At this point. And it has been tested countless times.
No, it has not. Look at the salesperson on that. Now, Chris here on the left has the right look. That's the right look to that statement. Look at him. Look at Peterson overselling with his eyes. Like, I wish he had reading glasses and he tilted them down just for that statement. Test it. No, it hasn't. There's no tests. There's nothing that tests common ancestry. There's no test for things evolving, clades splintering off into new things, and then eventually becoming whales. Zero tests.
I wouldn't know what it would even be. It's millions of times certain aspects of the idea of evolution have been tested. And all scientific ideas are tested based on assumptions that we make. That's part of the topic for the debate.
By the way, I wanted to point out that this is a terrible prompt for a debate. The debate prompt is evolution based more on assumption than direct evidence? Well, I mean, I actually agree with Peterson. Science is based on assumptions. In fact, science veers from logic a little bit in the sense that a hypothesis is a type of affirming the consequent, but because you have an experiment, you could actually figure out whether or not you were right, as opposed to a logical fallacy of affirming the consequent. When it rains, it's wet outside, therefore it rained. That's not actually true. You actually have to investigate if it's true. That's what science is. But I kind of agree with his assessment here. It's a weird prompt because all science is based on assumptions. I wouldn't belittle the proper scientific method merely because the process is based on assumptions. The question is whether or not the methodology can buttress the assumption and make it a theory with some sort of repetition. That's what's in question.
Right here. But evolution has passed that test countless times. There have been things that ended up not being true, but they're not part of the current model of science. Science, like, we get things wrong in science all the time. That's the only way to know whether or not you have the correct ideas, and the correct ideas are what go into that body of knowledge, at least hopefully you would think. So yes, there are many assumptions in scientific theory, but those assumptions were predicated on all kinds of observations that are made in the present. Starts with like animal domestication and the geographic distribution of species. And then the fossil record was a huge thing because people were just absolutely aghast at the idea that the fossil record is made almost entirely of these monstrous creatures that nobody's ever seen before. How can that possibly be? And
yeah, it's called they died. By the way, fossils, the well-preserved fossils, are often vertebrates. That's not to say that invertebrates can't fossilize, because they exist as well. But the problem is, a lot of the claims about evolution via fossilization is from vertebrates. And did you guys know that vertebrates, guess, someone who doesn't know, guess in the chat, out of all the animals we know about, all living organisms, which evolution is making a claim about, guess what percent of all known animals are vertebrate? Does anyone know? Anybody?
The logical entailment, the logical conclusion that I think science got us to was, well, at one point, deep in Earth's history, the species that were around were not the same as today. But where do species come from? They come from reproduction. So that means that the species of today are the descendants of different species from the past.
Now, okay, listen to what he just said. Now, at the end, we'll only look at some of this, okay? But at the end, I send in a super chat. I send in a super chat that actually states that in the premises. And then he's like, premise 2, I don't like it. It's like, it's literally what he just said. Remember this statement. Species, you know, these divergent groups come from previous species. That's the claim, right?
Ergo, evolution happens. And there are all kinds of much more high resolution, because that's a very overarching.
5%. It's 5%. Tops at 8. Tops 8, Jake. Yeah. Even being generous, 10%. Even if you went 10%.
Description. There are much more high resolution descriptions for how that happened. Chris brought up genetics. I'm happy to talk about that when we get into the open discussion here. That's really the main one, but other things like embryology, comparative anatomy, and all that. And again, those are all tried and tested concepts and ideas.
No, they're not, dude. You don't test a concept. Look. This is what constitutes testing an idea. Hey, what if one animal changed over time into another one? Let's find an animal that looks like that one. Look, we found an animal that shares similarities. Therefore, we tested it. That's what these people think is testing. Honestly, I'm not even being hyperbolic. They believe this. They think finding something that's similar, that's older than something that's current, and they look similar is a test. They actually think digging up something and looking at it is itself a test. They really believe this in their heads. And when you call them out, they're like, what do you mean? I tested it. I looked at it. But what was the test? You looked at something? That's a weird test. Look, watch. I'll do the same test. I have a position that that evolution didn't produce all of these different animals. Even if I'm not sure about what sourced all of these animals, I don't hold that they change. I'm going to posit that if you look back in history, you'll find different animals that look similar to the ones today. Hey, look, I found one. I found an animal that looks like one today. I tested my idea. I mean, look at the bones. Look at the bones. It's every time. Look at the bones, right? Look at the bones. Speaking of, I need to put that on my review here. Look at the bones. Hold on a second. I must have it for this. I must have it. Bones.
Based on the bones, as you can see by the bones, are the bones. Based on the bones.
Yeah.
Based on the bones.
Within evolution, it's been tested, as I've said before, countless times. I didn't write an opening statement beforehand, so I may be repeating myself a little bit here. But yes, evolution has the sort of modern concept of evolution, which is Darwinian, has a almost 170-year history of being tested over and over and over and over again. And I think it's passed that test with flying colors. So I am.
That's a cool claim. You forgot to mention what the tests were.
More than happy to get into that tonight. I think. And so for the reasons I just stated, I don't think that's the case. But the idea of life arising organically on this planet, completely naturalistically, that actually is a testable idea. It does make.
Is it?
Make predictions.
Really? It makes predictions? What? Those are two different... Dude, this is crazy. I mean, public education is mangling the mind, like scrambling how we think. You notice? Do you see how quickly he shifted? He was like, "So, life coming from non-life. I mean, that concept, that idea, has testable prediction. It's been tested. It has testable predictions. What are you talking about?" They just shift the goalposts. Like, one statement is life coming from non-life. The next statement is whether or not the assumption of life starting non-life or non-life starting life, you could look at the world and then interpret through that lens what you would want to see. You know what I mean? It's always the same format. It goes like if this was true, we would probably see that, and we go, how do you know that? What if you saw that and it wasn't true? I simply asked that question. What if you did see that and it wasn't true? What your assumption wasn't true?
And evolution has passed that test as well. It would predict that if life has a common origin and life is produced through reproduction and there is a hereditary molecule, then all life on the planet would be related.
Okay, cool. So I have a hunch that God created all animals, and my hunch is if that was true, there'd be a lot of animals, and there'd be a variation of animals, and they have similar traits and similar composition and similar ontology and similar behaviors, but they all differ too. There's variation. There's unity and multiplicity. There you go. I tested God existing. You see, they would never accept that, right? They would never accept that. It's like basic fallacy. Basic fallacy.
And that is exactly the case. There isn't a single life form on this planet that doesn't share at least some genetic material, some genes. Not just the fact that we all have DNA, but specifically there are genes that bacteria have that even humans have. Very, very few of them, but there are some. So that's I wouldn't say it proves it in the...
Things are made. By the way, they grant themselves genetic material, right? Genetic makeup, right? But under the naturalist view, there's no meaningful distinction between genetic makeup, the way genes are structured physically, that you then interpret as some sort of code in their function and whatnot. There's no categorical difference that's meaningful from the naturalist view between genetic makeup and just basic compositional makeup. Molecular makeup, like being made of, like, in their view, like molecules, atoms, hydrogen, carbon. All of it is in one category called physical composition. But then they make this specialty category called genes. They just grant themselves that it's a special, unique category of pure physical categories. No. That's arbitrary. They don't understand this part. When you say this to them, they're like, what do you mean? They'll say this, do you deny? They always do this. When you ask them internally how they make a distinction, a meaningful categorical distinction between anything, species, clades, one animal and the other, mammals and non-mammals, like, it all falls apart because there's always some strange exception in nature. Ultravoid, $10. How has it been tested for over 170 years and passed all the tests, but at the same time, Evo has continued to change over the same time. It's changing. It needed retesting. Well, yeah, that's the thing. This is the thing, Ultravoid. They presuppose a model, and then when data comes in that doesn't go with the model, they don't throw the model out. They reinterpret the data into the existing model, and they put it in a different place. That's what they do. That's why they could say that. That's why they say it.
The same sense as prove is a loaded term. It doesn't prove it deductively, but it is scientific evidence. So it scientifically proves it in the weaker sort of case. I'm running out of time. The last thing was Chris said something about grant that populations exist. Oh, yeah. A supposed problem that we have with evolution is, well, the evolutionists, they just ask us to grant that we already have a population of organisms, and then evolution happens.
Yeah.
Why should we grant that? And I kind of already made this point, but the response is, even if all life was magically created like 1,000 years ago, or whatever the alternative is, evolution still happens.
No, dude, you just totally dodged the question. You can't, dude, that's the thing in question. Okay, look, it's really simple, Peterson. We know that you're claiming evolution happens. The problem is you have to grant yourself a population. The reason that's a problem, Peterson, is that a population, a group of giraffes, name any population, whale, giraffe, dogs, whatever it is, that thing you're pointing to has to be the result of evolution. That's what's consistent in your view, that all populations are a type of change, a variation from a previous thing called a population. That is to say, populations come from populations. There's not a population you could look at in the evolutionary view that doesn't necessitate a previous version of it. That's where you're trapped, bucko. So you didn't wiggle out of the claim here by just saying, well, evolution happens even if you grant yourself populations. Yeah, we understand that's your claim. The problem is you need to hold that evolution gave you the populations. There's no way out of this. This is one of the killer internal critiques on evolution. If you don't go the liver route like I do, which I recommend that you do if you're a debater, you go to the granular, specialized livers. You have to ask them, how does random mutation produce that? Does it maintain? Does it have a purpose? Is the liver changing to something else that we don't know of right now? This kind of stuff. But populations is a key one.
It's absolutely undeniable.
Thanks, Max. How are you so well educated on this? Impressive. I'm actually not, Max. What I'm educated in is the assumptions. And what I learned in my last 5 years of sort of like dabbling in novice tier philosophy, without all the extra baggage of pure information, I just look at the assumptions. That's all you have to do, whether it's atheism or Hinduism or Mormonism. All you have to do is look at their fundamental starting assumptions that they grant themselves and just crack at those. They can't go anywhere. Their entire epistemology falls apart right in front of their eyes when you chop at their wax-filled pillars.
Now, there's a disagreement. I don't know Chris's official position. If Chris thinks some evolution happened, but the idea that birds actually did evolve from dinosaurs, well, evolution can't do that. There are limitations to evolution, perhaps, or that it occurs to the extent that somebody like myself would say it does.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, for
Oh, wait, I want to get... let's just listen to Chris's opener.
Down what you said.
Discussion, debates, and gaming. And for the negative, we have Planet Peterson, who also has a channel here on YouTube where he debates people and makes entertaining educational content. He's also an author with a book called Facts That Aren't True, with lots of fun information from debunking old wives' tales to exposing media-fueled misconceptions.
Does evolution process stop when it gets to a desired state? There is no desire, Eek. So that's a great question. When I debated that PhD Spurg, who I absolutely annihilated and lit on fire, he said, well, the I is the complete product. I was like, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean complete product? Eek, when you ask someone that question who's an Evo proponent, it's better to take something very specific. Don't say evolution, the process. Point to the effect of the process and say, is the I done? Did the I develop its purpose and is it going to maintain it? Because their view is, well, the I developed, and I go, why is it so effective? And it's like, well, it's effective because it's effective. And, the elements rewarded effective things. Well, that still doesn't compensate for the fact that it could randomly mutate away from its function, right? This is where they're so confused. Evolution proponents are always making two claims at the same time. That the thing that works really well was sort of guided and provoked by the external world. And simultaneously, they're saying the thing called an I accidentally developed. It just happened to do well in the external world. These are two different claims. And they just smash them together because they're dumb.
So debaters, you know the rules. Let's keep it sharp. Chris, since you are affirmative, you're going to go first. So whenever you're ready, Chris, you can go ahead. Oh,
watch out. We got Vagine. Watch out.
One half of author Thugs Jim Bob. You impressed me with your argumentation on the process of evolution. By their position, we should see a large majority of individual animals that have mid-process mutations, such as 60% wings or random 30% nubs, and we should be able to predict where the mutation is going. But we only see completed mutations.
That's right. Now they think, well, they all died. No. No, that doesn't follow, because if they said, well, the reason we don't see half-formed, 1/8 penises, underdeveloped ears that are closer to the cheekbones, so on and so on, right? All of these like malformed things, they would say, oh, they all died out. You're like, that doesn't even follow. You know why it doesn't follow? Because the thing that you call complete, this complete, beautiful form that God made us in, symmetrical, with function and purpose, would have to go through a process of the same level of malformity. You know what I mean? Underdeveloped. In the wrong place. Figuring it out. Trial and error, but no mind, right? No intent. That's how insane evolution is. When you take it through chapters, that's why an Evo proponent can only argue from, here, put it this way. The Evo proponent draws a circle on the board, right? You didn't watch him draw the circle, though. You walk in and he says, you want to learn about evolution? And I go, yeah, let me get closer. And he's like, no. Stay about 10 feet away, would you? Why? You'll see. So this circle is evolution, you know? And you're like, oh, interesting. So can you talk about the spaces between, that makes the circle happen? Not really. It's just change over time. And I go, I'm going to get closer and look. And when you look closer at their circle, it's actually made up of a bunch of dash marks that don't connect. And then they're like, damn, you looked at evolution at a closer resolution and you found out that all you have to do with evolution is look at a closer resolution of the claim, and it all falls apart. No more illusion of a complete circle. It only works on people who look at it from this long story abstract view.
I'll start the timer up with your voice, and thank you both for being here tonight.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Thank you to my opponent, Planet Peterson, or Uncle Eric over here.
Chair throwing Italian says, if I look at a router hard enough, it will create an environment stressor to vibrate my alleles, get Wi-Fi eyes. I'm waiting for Wi-Fi eyes. Waiting. Vagine, did you have something to say? Vagine's always talking. Always.
I saw you in the chat threatening to kill people's pets. You stick to your lane, Buster Brown.
I didn't say kill. I said eat.
Speak. Thanks for having us. So today's debate is about the direct evidence for evolution versus if it's assumptions or guesstimates. Because we are dealing with science, that would probably be empirical evidence.
This is a review from last night.
Evidence of a theory of Evo, even though, I feel it's more a hypothesis at this point from just looking at the stuff. It would probably require claims to go through the scientific method as it is a theory in science, so we'll probably delve into a little bit of that. The claims of the proposed theory tonight will be, my opponent will probably be giving evidence for that, so we'll run through that and give it a bit of a litmus test and see what's what. It's probably going to be a story about things that are attributed to a theory, but are just kind of normal observations about things that don't really tie into the theory from what I've seen. And then, what else do we have here? But also the discussion is probably going to go into the most likely, which is probably genetics. That will also conclude things that are similar, but then giving a distinction to similarities that equates to the same origin, which we'll probably go through as well. And that claim doesn't prove that either. So he's probably going to also appeal to, this is the one problem that I also realized is biased institutions. Most of them are monopolizing their data, the verification of science. And yeah, a lot of it starts a little bit rocky, which I don't know. In fields of science where I don't know if we should be the gatekeeping should be at a level that it is. I mean, if the ultimate purpose of science is to gain higher resolution pictures or understanding of nature and life, there seems to be weird that there's a lot of bias going on in these fields, which is very interesting for me. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do a delayed one. Let's jump into Peterson's and let's get it cracking.
Chris. Okay, I love you, Chris, but you don't get the whole song, though. You just get a snippet, Chris. Okay. So, look, the debate is evolution based more on assumptions than direct evidence? The affirmative is, hell yeah, it is. But Chris, you didn't list the long list, by the way. Long list of the assumptions that are not directly observed. You got to list all of them, bro. You can't come out going, oh, evolution is totally based on pure assumptions, right? Not direct evidence, not testability, not science, none of this stuff. You got to list those assumptions, man. There's a ton of them. There's an assumption of what you're looking at when you find a fossil. There's an assumption of a common ancestry that you're looking for confirmation bias for. There's an assumption that allele frequency and random mutation over time not only produces new populations, but produces new mechanisms inside the system, like the liver and the heart and the brain and the bones and the fascia and the muscle, right? And all the highways for blood and everything else to transfer and transport things inside the body, right? You're also assuming there's no telos or purpose or intent or direction to this, so it's happening accidentally. You have to assume that entire clades of things have some sort of diversion process that produces entirely new unrecognizable clades, like a whale, or they don't even say it's a clade. You have to, that's another assumption. You have to assume that there's a universal category called a species while denying its universality, because if it's changing, it's not universal. You have to assume that there's a moment in time or some sort of arbiter or standard for determining what a clade is. When does that start? When does a clade start? You have to list these assumptions that they hold, because then they have to defend them. And it's actually in their defense of these broken assumptions that you have them done. You can't do your opener and not list the assumptions. You gotta throw a bucket on his head of the assumptions he holds, like he's drowning in his assumptions.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Chris. And with that, we're going to...
Point of this not be relevant towards the conversation.
Because if you believe that all life on the planet was... If you believe that no species has ever evolved from a different species... This one's a little bit goofy, but... even if you do... Kind of start over. I'm sorry. Even if you believe that the vast majority or virtually all species that exist...
Doesn't it sound like Peterson's always about to do like a 9 and go Hawks?
Exist were created, then evolution still happens over time. Even people.
It just still happens. Yeah, Peterson. We know that's the thing in question, bro.
People that run like Answers in Genesis and the Institute of Creation Research, they all believe in evolution. For example, they think that there were only a few thousand species on the Ark. Well, there are over 1.5 million species today. So they have to believe that evolution, to an extent, occurs. They just don't agree that it occurs to the extent that somebody like myself would say it does.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, for this, I mean, you're an educator. I'm here to be educated, so I'm not...
This is a question that was irrelevant. I actually sent a super chat in here. This was irrelevant. Peterson may have thought it was some sort of gotcha. It actually wasn't. I wanted to know. You know how atheists ultimately, when you press them, they then hold to an eternal universe? That matter itself is eternal. But they also hold that matter produced life. Now, this question is interesting. You don't see it on there. But here, let me show you what it is, just so you guys have it. This is a question that never occurred to me to ask someone who holds an eternal universe view. If someone holds that the universe is eternal, and they also hold that matter is eternal, like Mormons do, and they also hold that matter produced life, if the universe is massive or itself infinite or something like this, why isn't it the case that these people don't just hold that life always existed? You know what I mean? It's like, why? His answer to this question at the end was, we just don't see evidence. We see evidence that life started as opposed to always existed. But the thing is, that's assuming your local view of things, if it were true, is what you're all looking at. But the thing is, under their view, if matter is eternal and matter could produce life, there was always a time where matter could have been producing life at every instance if it's an infinite, massive, eternal universe, right? So isn't it weird that they actually have to hold, under their own view, some type of creation event? Isn't that interesting? Otherwise, there's no reason actually to deny the proposition from their view that life always existed, just somewhere else. You know what I mean? What's the problem?
I'm here with some questions, and then let's see if you can convince me. But I mean, with regards to that, right? If we speak about something coming from something, we have to look at the fundamental state of where things come from. Like this is why I said you guys grant yourself populations, because we would have to deduce firstly how living organisms existed. That's why abiogenesis exists, right? Because it's trying to answer this question of the origin of life, which is kind of important if we're talking about life.
Yeah, they're going to reject this, Chris, and you don't need to go. The trap point pushes them to abiogenesis, but you don't have to telegraph and tell them you're going to go there. You actually trap them so they're forced to go there. That's a better optical take. Here's how. Instead of bringing up abiogenesis, just know that he's going to be trapped there. You just go to Planet Peterson. Do you believe that all the variation you see in the world of animals is produced by a process called evolution? And he goes, yeah, that's the claim. Then you say, the populations, let's take all the populations of things you see today, like a giraffe. Do you hold that evolution through this process eventually produced giraffes, the population giraffes? He has to say yes. And then you got him. You got him totally pinned. Because the conclusion, he even tested the argument in ChatGPT when I sent it, and it was valid. Now he has to tell me through the evolutionary view how it produces populations. Endless regress, instituted, debate over, basically.
I mean, it should be relevant towards this discussion. And I think why you don't want to talk about it is because there's not a lot of evidence for it. It's mostly assumptions. So yeah, it's why I said you're going to grant yourself the populations, and then we're going to work from populations. And whether you're going to call everything evolution, it's become a synonymous term through everything. Technology evolves, like you said. Fucking erosion is evolution. Everything's evolution. Everything's evolution. We're talking about biological evolution now. So I don't care about the term being used synonymously. We all understand things change over time. The question is where life started changing and spread into variations.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say without repeating myself. I guess I'd have to ask you the question. Even if life was created by like a god or something, then evolution would still happen, or it would certainly still be possible. And it would also be, well, yeah, I guess I'll just ask you that question. Even if life is created by a god or whatever, evolution is still completely possible, right?
No. If it was created by a god, it would have been intelligently designed to adapt and have plasticity within its genetics to adapt to environments, which is just an adaptation. Genesis does not.
Okay, watch. Let's see if he answers this. See how he answers this. Okay, this was the argument. I could refine this argument, but I just want to show you this spot here. Okay, so you guys see the argument? Wait. Let me... Okay, you guys see it. Premise 1, evolution produces changes in organisms. Premise 2, populations are changes in organisms. They are. They're the effect. Now, if I want to write effect, it's better, right? Evolution, premise 1, evolution produces the effects of changes in organisms. Premise 2, populations are the effects of changes in organisms. Okay? Conclusion, evolution produces populations because populations are effects of the changes. The question is, if that argument is true, which it is, how does random mutation produce populations? You can't get away from this.
Random mutation produce.
Overall, genetically, we're 50% identical. Not the
Now watch how uncomfortable this argument makes Peterson.
case at all. Us and bananas, like, we're like maybe 1%.
Yeah, what I would add there well, Peterson is, I mean, what he's saying is in a way correct, because yeah, I mean, dude, it's like with I mean, amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, right? In a way, and I mean, dude, there's 500 amino acids, and then there's only 200 that gets used for 22. Sorry, of the 500, there's 22 that's for proteins and stuff. So yeah, there's.
Chris says you were ready for abiogenesis. Yeah, but the thing is, when you debate evolution proponents, you have to know that they're not going to go there. They're going to stay away from that, but you have to force them to go there. If you just start with abiogenesis and you're like, let's talk about abiogenesis, they'll be like, no. We talk about evolution, we're talking about populations. You're like, interesting. Okay, let's see if we can get to abiogenesis. So they can't not talk about it. But you have to use an arguments to make them not talk, to make them talk about it. You can't, if you just bring it up, they just were going to refuse to talk about it. You got to make them logically talk about it.
There's going to be similarities in the proteins that are used in these things. It's like meat's meat, right? All animals contain meat.
Alrighty. We got $5 from Verna Desire. Thank you both debaters tonight. I wonder if a debate between Made by Jimbob and Kellogg Elasova, I hope I said that right, about evolution would be good. I mean, if they want to do that, and they want to do it here, I'm down for it. But
Kellogg's just a nobody.
I seen them arguing back and forth. It probably would be good in the chat.
They're probably fighting in chat or something.
Yeah. We got $5 in from Tommy. Says 2 of my favorite debaters and also the best moderator in the game. Let's go. Thank you, Tommy. Cheers. Shout out to you. Next, we got $5 Made by Jimbob. P1, evolution produces changes in organisms. P2, populations are changes in organisms. C, Evo produces populations. How does random mutation produce populations?
What the fuck?
Sorry, I might be bad at reading.
No, you read it correctly. Populations are changes in organisms. That's not what a population is.
A population's not an affected change in organisms of a previous population. See how easy this is? A population is not the effect of changes. Like he's taking it literal and going, populations are the change, but they actually are also. That's also true. The population itself is also the change. Is also the change. That's what's crazy is like when you ask what causes changes in population, you know what they have to say? Changes. Okay, changes in population. What causes that? Changes in population. Oh, really? What causes that changes in that population? Changes in population. Oh, so we are going back to the beginning. I don't know. I'm not talking about abiogenesis. What do you mean? You just said changes in population cause changes in population. How far back are we going here? Eventually, you have to have your own creation story, which is to say there's a nature of something that becomes a new nature, things that are not alive. So you go changes in population all the way back. You keep going back with populations until some point where what? Well, it necessitates the end of endless regress. And the end of endless regress for these people is there is a nature change, a change in fundamental nature of something, which is dead matter, pure chemical dead matter, somehow becomes alive. So that suddenly new populations isn't caused by previous populations. New populations is caused at least once miraculously from just non-population matter. Is a group of rocks a population?
I don't understand. Conclusion, evolution produces populations. I don't know if that's even valid. I'm not going to take the time to deduce that now. People can rewatch this later. But so the question is, how does random mutation produce populations? It by itself doesn't.
Really? So random mutation didn't produce the population of a giraffe?
the theory is evolution by natural selection. There are
Yeah. Now, what is it selecting for? The mutation, the traits from the mutations, right?
multiple mechanisms for that. Like I could say, without the sun, we wouldn't have weather. Oh, so how does the sun create hurricanes? Well, you have to have oceans, and there have to be other things. I guess technically you'd only need you need an atmosphere too. So you need three things for that to happen. So
that did not answer the question. Not even a little bit.
I'll Chris, you can respond to that.
Not even a little bit did that answer the question. Now, I did rush the argument. Now, if you guys want to take this argument, the way it should be written, now to lessen the confusion, is premise 1: evolution produces effects of changes in organism. Evolution, premise 1, produces effects. Right? That's the effect. Changes in organism. It produces the effect of changes in organisms. Premise 2, populations are effects of changes in organisms. You cannot deny this from an evolution perspective. Conclusion, evolution produces the effects called population. There's no way around this. No way around this, okay? You can't get out of this. So that's like right there. The entire worldview of evolution is put into question because of that one silly syllogism. Just one tiny, that's it. Anyway, good job anyway, Chris. I would be more aggressive, obviously. You heard my critiques. Like this guy, all of it, Evo proponents, they rely on people not catching them on all of their assumptions. They just rely on it. They just expect it. They get to run free. They rely on people not biting the bullet on statements that might make them look crazy, in contrast to what's the acceptable narrative. You look like a crazy person. Do you deny? Do you deny? You just got to deny it all. Be like, no, it's all bullshit. You can't defend it. It's bullshit, and you can't defend it. Try. Justin Henley, who's half black, gives $5, which is half of $10. Eternal Universe. Like, Justin Henley, when he donates, every time it's actually, his intent is double the payment. I'm just getting half of it. Eternal Universe is impossible. You cannot have infinite yesterdays, infinite past. To be eternal is to be timeless, right? Also, if you even granted it conceptually, it doesn't follow that you can justify the regularity of the universe. That's endless. That's timeless, eternal. All those laws could change. So you're like, why this particular localization of order and function? Always comes back to function, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Every time. Every single damn time. All right, we got an hour left. We're almost at 20 left, 22 left. Things got slower, yes, with the evolution stuff, but I needed to cover it. Ben Shapiro got exhausting, so still waiting on Mormons to step up to the plate. But if I was a Mormon, I wouldn't want to debate either. Let's face it. What a horror show it is. Respect the mustache. Yeah. Any other questions on evolution that you guys have? Doesn't he get the argument is metaphysical, not empirical? The question is, how can something genuinely newly arise from something different? Yeah, it is. It gets into metaphysics for sure. Eventually, if they understand it enough, even if they have a minor philosophical acumen, it does reduce to nominalism, like particularism. It's like everything that you look at that you are saying is in a category, it's not actually in a category. Like a cat, and it looks like another cat. Under the evolutionary view, It's actually not an objective category, right? Actually, let me look at, I'll show you guys something here. Let me show you this. I brought this up before, but it is really relevant to these debates because this idea of species is nebulous. And people think, like, that's another killer argument, is that if evolution argues that there's something called speciation, which is to say there's an objective thing called a species that then diverges and becomes, there's a new species that arises from it, you're actually arguing the objectivity of species, right? By saying the statement, you're saying there's a universal thing called a species, right? Well, in the very next premise, they'll deny that species are objective. They're merely arbitrary categories. Okay, there goes your naturalist biological genetic claim. Bye-bye. Unhip Bone, Fiverr, thank you so much for that. Add to that. We're at 21 left. Under an hour to go, guys. 21 left. All right, let's take a look at this weirdo. I don't know why he's so excited about undermining evolution, but he is. This guy's super excited about undermining evolution and what's required for evolution to be true. He's like, I'm so excited to completely destroy what's necessary for evolution to be true. Let's hear him. Keep this guy away from the playgrounds.
But wait, this tiger, the first one we saw, is a wild tiger from Southeast Asia. And this tiger is a captive tiger in North America. They will never encounter one another, let alone breed. Are they the same species or different species? This tiger is extinct, as is this one, probably.
That's not a tiger.
We do have a whole video about that one. But are they the same species as this tiger or a different species? This is a tiger whiptail, and this closely related lizard is a New Mexico whiptail. It's a female. You can tell that it's a female because the females have stripes like this one, and the males don't exist. That's right, the entire species is female. They reproduce asexually via parthenogenesis, which means that none of them breed with one another.
That's what the trans people think they're heading toward. They're like, we don't need you. I'm a lizard. Murdoch, $10. Thank you so much. If abiogenesis could even be partly demonstrated, are we supposed to ignore the fact that it will have taken place in a controlled, sterilized laboratory under direction of the intelligent beings? Yeah, that's funny, Dr. Murdoch. I actually sent this meme I made about 2 years ago to James Torr in his email, and he laughed. He responded, which was, there's two scientists looking at a petri dish or a flask, and one says, we've finally proven that that life can be created from an intelligence. It's like that's kind of the great irony, isn't it? Like whatever you demonstrate is going to necessitate a mind with intent, which is hilarious.
Is each individual therefore a separate species? This is a tiger salamander, and this salamander is an Ensatina, and so is this, and so is this. And so is this. You might notice that there is some pretty great variation in Ensatinas. Now here's the crazy thing. Ensatinas live at relatively high elevations, but not extreme elevations. As a result, 19 populations are found in the mountains that encircle California's Central Valley. Altogether, these 19 populations form kind of a horseshoe around the valley. They don't form a complete circle because the mountains on one side are just a little bit too tall for them. Now here's the thing. Each population is capable of breeding and producing viable offspring that themselves can reproduce with the neighboring population. So it is possible for genes from one end of the horseshoe to make their way all the way to the other end of the horseshoe. But individuals from one end can't reproduce with individuals from the other end.
Darwin is like Al Gore. He is. It's actually probably worse at the time. I look at Darwin and I imagine like he's like the Theon Greyjoy of the Royal Society. I bet you they chopped off his junk.
So, are they one species or many species? If many, how many and why? And this is a lion. It can breed with a tiger and produce a viable offspring called a liger, or a tigon, depending on who was the lady and who was the fella. Well, these lion-tiger hybrids are viable in that they can survive just fine, but they're sterile, usually. At least males are. Females can potentially reproduce.
Yeah, you can leave it open.
with a male lion or a male tiger. So are lions and tigers the same species or different species? Hopefully by now, you are no longer as confident that you know what a species is.
Yeah. This is great. If you get, and now I need to learn a little bit more about this. I generally understand it enough to question the Evo proponent, to get them to go, oh yeah, it is, ultimately ambiguous. It's arbitrary. If I can get that out of a debate opponent, I'm good. But the thing is, if I have to go in higher resolution to demonstrate because they're unaware, you might want to brush up on why it is the case with some examples that suddenly this otherwise very confidently assumed category called a species is something we should run with, as opposed to, wait.
I like salamanders.
Thank you. Another question, by the way, Chris, the assumption, right? If you're going to take the debate, if there's a debate prompt that says, is evolution based on pure assumptions or whatever, unjustified assumptions, then this is another one in the list. Species itself is an assumption, the category. I can't pay the other half of my super chats. No snap, right? That's funny. Thanks.
As are the moderately informed.
Trump.
And you have entered the uncomfortably uncertain position of the highly informed. Because as comfortable as it is to divide life into discrete boxes called species, it turns out that life is an ever-changing continuum. And finding a way to divide continuous data into discrete categories is not always easy to do.
This is one of my favorite philosophical arguments, specifically against Christians, so-called Christians who argue evolution and Christianity are compatible. What he just said. The never-ending continuum of nebulous categories with blurred lines. Well, I'm sorry, if you believe if you're Christian and you hold that the central core tenet of Christianity is that Christ, the second person Logos, incarnated as a human to defeat death, trample death, so that forever life is available for us, healing humanity, right? Well, I'm sorry, Mike Jones, Inspiring Philosophy, but under the evolutionary view, you do not have a universal humanity to refer to. You have a set of particulars that become new particulars. So Christ assuming humanity from an evolution perspective simply means he took on his own very, very particular creature nature, not ours. Ours is also very unique to us. Each of us, in fact, from this view, have our own very specific, unique natures. They are a new category themselves. We don't share a category. You guys in the chat, you're not human with me. Christ wasn't human with us. That's not true under that view. So it gets worse, though, because if humanity is nominal and ever-changing and in flux, it could be the case when you read the part of the Nicene Creed that says he will return to judge the living and the dead. Under Mike Jones's Inspiring Philosophy's view, it could very well be the case that Christ comes back to judge the living and the dead, and the dead are humans, but the living are octopus-looking things that were downstream from a human. And they're doing their own type of worship. You know what I mean? You know, an octopus at the front, instead of the priest, who in this case would also be an octopus, announcing that there's going to be 4 hosts for all for the parish. There's only one. Well, no, there's 8. But it's all one octopus priest that's holding all 8 of the Eucharists. Christ comes back and the creature he's judging is unrecognizable. I saw what you did to that other fish. I saw.
In an objective and intuitive manner, but we're going to try anyway. So now that we've lost all sight of what a species might be, let's talk about what a species might be. Obviously, our friends at Ridge have been with us for a long time now. And it's nice, or you're on the hunt.
Shush.
Okay, so the species concept that we discussed earlier, the top answer in Family Feud,
Octopus priest dunking 8 babies, exactly.
is called the biological species.
The baptism is actually you have to take them out of water. It's an air baptism.
Species concept. Like all species concepts, it has strengths and weaknesses. Species concepts that have no strengths are called garbage ideas, not species concepts. And if we had one with no weaknesses, we would call it the species concept. But there are enough weaknesses with the biological species concept for us to recognize that it's difficult to apply objectively in some instances, like with lions and tigers in different places, or with the salamanders, and downright impossible in others, like with fossils and asexual lineages. So while it can work, it certainly doesn't always work. And that is why it isn't the species concept. So what are the other ones? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Let's talk about the most frequently used species concepts. And
this guy's such a freak show. I mean, I wish I had all of his energy sometimes, but geez, lay off, buddy.
And if you still haven't found one that you like, maybe we'll revisit this topic in the future. And let's start with another one that is fairly straightforward. The
He's pro, Jeremy. He's pro evolution, and he's denying and making. He's actually honest, at least. He's saying this like certain principle, this certain category called a species is nebulous.
Morphological species concept. Do you remember that fossil tiger? Well, if you do, you might recall that I have no idea.
Put him on 2 speed. We should just, at least for fun, see what it sounds like.
If it could breed with any of the other tigers, the lion, the jaguar, or anything else alive today. Heck, I wouldn't even know if 2 identical fossil tigers found at the same place at the same time with a bunch of
looks like, dude, he looks like, kind of looks like Owen Benjamin.
Babies could breed with one another. I could find 2 skeletons in the act of mating, and I wouldn't know if they were able to produce viable fertile offspring. But I could carefully study their skeletons and determine if there are significant differences between them. Are there...
No, that's not sufficient. Sorry. Similar anotypical similarities, phenotypical similarities does not follow. It does not produce or, let's say, conclude genotypical similarities. And this is all they have, right? Just look at the bones. Look at the bones.
Based on the bones, as you can see by the bones, are the bones. Based on the bones.
Yeah.
Based on the bones.
Every time.
Are skeletons significantly different from those of modern tigers or any other living organism? If they aren't meaningfully different, I can conclude that they're the same species based upon the morphological species concept. That 2 organisms are the same species if they share many unique features and do not differ significantly.
Yeah, Tom Green.
Significantly from one another. And this species concept has many strengths. It's broadly applicable, much more broadly applicable even than the biological species concept. I don't need to know any.
How do you explain dinosaur bones? Large animals existed, and large animals have large bones.
Anything about reproduction. It works on asexual lineages, extinct organisms, really anything I can observe, alive or dead. It's basically the gold standard of paleontology, where morphological features may be all that we have. And yet it's just about as intuitive as the biological species concept. But it isn't the species concept. It has many shortcomings. For example, look at these 2 gorillas. They have many similarities, but they aren't identical. So how different is 2 different? Seems pretty subjective. I mean, who's making that call? Would you agree with their standard? And if the 2 morphologies are significantly different, what's causing that difference? These 2 grasshoppers are the same species, but they don't look the same. And why do they not look the same? Because one of them grew up in close proximity to other grasshoppers, and the other did not. These grasshoppers have little hairs that, if bumped above a certain frequency, cause them to molt into long-distance flying locusts, instead of a grasshopper that tends to stay pretty much in one place. They will differ in coloration, wing shape and size, muscle composition, fat storage, as well as behavior. But not because their genes are different, but because their environment was different, triggering a different set of genes to be activated. This is called phenotypic plasticity. 2 grasshoppers with the same genetics can develop 2 totally different morphologies, and their morphology will not play a significant role in determining which morphology their offspring present. And don't get me started on green anacondas. As we will discuss next week in our feature-length documentary about all of the boa species, we just discovered a new species of green anaconda. But the reason that we didn't realize that there were 2 species of green anaconda sooner was because morphology.
I never thought about this, though. You know how at least the command peculiar to humans from a Christian view is to be fruitful and multiply. That doesn't mean be fruitful and augment and change, but even the multiplicity aspect, if it were the case that animals are reflective, even though they don't follow commandments, they're not morally culpable. It kind of makes sense that creation itself is consistent with be fruitful and multiply, even if multiply means the original animals in creation still can diverge from their origin, but it never changes what they are. They actually multiply. There's a multiplication of the types of that animal. It doesn't deny the universality of the creature itself. Evolution takes another jump, though. They go, well, that eventually has to become a wolf. A snake has to become this. Or the Pakicetus is a wolf-like dog on the beach, and it has to become a whale. Nope.
Logically, the two species are nearly identical. It wasn't until we examined their DNA that we learned that the two species are reproductively isolated from one another and highly different genetically. But morphologically, that's not the case. These two butterflies look identical too. They live in the same place, but they never mate.
What is it? Can I get a little bit of a super chat? What do you call it? Rain? What do you even call it? Can we get an aggressive super chat? Because there actually is a very important stream I'd like to transfer you all to today. Not to rush you out of here, but because dispensationalism is such an important topic, I was hoping to meet my goal today, of course, because that's what I do, but also get you guys out in time, because dispensationalism is more pressing to me than evolution. If I can get a couple, let's meet that 18 more. Okay, 40 minutes. Let's do it under 40 minutes. I promise dispensationalism is a massive issue that needs to be understood. Super chat train.
Why? Because under ultraviolet light, they look nothing alike, and the butterflies can see that. But it took us centuries to notice. Other nearly identical organisms may not mate because they use different pheromones or calls.
Actually, here, I'm going to snipe them until...
So it would have been quite a hefty price for a mere congregational pastor to pay to be amongst these elites.
How long has this been going? I think Posh is supposed to be on here. Is he just waiting for him?
However, the mastermind behind his...
Maybe he's waiting for him. Let's get a super chat. Poop, thank you so much. Austin, thank you so much. Jeremy, 2. Jack, 2. Thank you so much. I have like 8 windows open. That's funny. Yeah, that's what my life is like. That's what my life is like all the time. I'm almost done learning. Good news, I'm almost done learning Tyler Childress, Nose to the Grind. Really good song. I highly recommend listening to it. Great song. This one I want to really learn and not have to look at lyrics. I want to learn it good enough to not look at lyrics. I'll probably wear this shirt when I record it too, because it's cowboy. Got you, bro. Thank you so much. Take my Jort coin. Yes, thank you. Let's get that sorted. I don't see Posh on yet, okay? So we can hang out a little bit, but really important topic. It's an absolute disaster in America. And I blame... You don't just blame the tiny hats. You gotta look at these Darby dumpers, I call them. Darby dumpers. Thank you, General Specific. Appreciate that. 5 from Abby. Thank you, Abby. Tyler Childers turned lib and gay. Well, that's unfortunate. It happens. They got run through the machine. Happened in one of my favorites. You know, I was following, what is his name? Billy Crystal? Strings. Billy Strings. Remember him? I found him on a bench somewhere on a video playing the banjo with, like, you know, dirty, sockless Doc Martens and ripped jorts. And I'm like, that's my dude. He's like, I just want to play music, you know? And 2 years fast forward, he's got a rainbow flag. He's got feather hair. He's got eyeshadow on. He's doing all sorts of, I mean, dude, just shoot him up, spit him out, go through the gay grinder. That's why they call it grinder. That's unfortunate, you know. But even without changing your aesthetic, I mean, Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, all these people, they get run through the degeneracy machine, and they somehow still go, no, I'm still God-fearing, you know.
Just love them. Just love the gay stuff happening. It's great. Everybody have fun. It's like, dude, come on, Willie Nelson. Did I ever tell you I saw him live? And it was like he was shivering on stage. And it was really weird because his son and his daughter were on stage with him. And she's like this witchy-looking woman where you just see a giant hat and these little pointy little fingers. They look like a bunch of the ends of paintbrushes just on the keys. But then his son is like 80s vibe, electric guitar. He's like ripping these solos that kind of don't match the Willie Nelson vibe. And then Willie Nelson's just there with his broken guitar, which has like a hole in the hole. And it's like he's just talking. It's like he doesn't even sing anymore. He just talks. You know what I mean? He's all just like, highways, trailer. It's like no one cares. It's out of tune. He just strumming the guitar is like, he's like trying to bring it back to life. It's not like he's playing it. He just hits. It just kind of goes like this. And he just says words. Hearts, hearts, highways and byways and hearts and... He's all... I was like, what am I doing here? I should have went 20 years ago. 20 years earlier, maybe. Chris Kopp, $10. The commonality in all DNA might not come from a single ancestral organism like Luca, but from a shared biochemical environment, particularly the food nutrient systems influence the gene expression. I think that's a big assumption there. Like, you're saying that, wait, are you saying humans came from food? Food was here first? Uncle Banana? Uncle Banana? Is that you? You look great. You look a little hunched over. We got to straighten your back. How's the epic print coming along? Grifted along with your Savage Memes books. I will. Actually, I'm waiting for my new iPad pen. So that's going to be fun to do. And I have to do it quick. So I'll let you guys know when you get the buy-in. You get to buy yourself into a massive Where's Waldo style print. So I'm pretty pumped for that. It's going to be fun. Abby Zong, $10. Thank you so much. Abby Zong, another tenner. And we're almost there, y'all. And then I can eat lunch and cool off because my AC is currently being worked on. And I have a stranger in my house. And no one else is home. So I'll send you guys over to Dispensational Island. Okay? Does that sound good? For those of you who are waiting on your songs, yes, I am about to record the Tyler Childress one. Pretty excited about that. And then I'll, whoever's next on the list, I did not forget about you, so I really appreciate your patience. Thank you for that. People have been saying, dude, you got to do more music. You got to do more music. They keep saying it. But right now the priority, as far as, that's obviously a priority. But I can't make my own music. I have to finish the covers you guys hired me to do. Willie did a song with Orville Peck too. What's like a famous Woody, I almost said Woody Nelson. What's a famous Woody Allen song? I almost want to impersonate him. What's like the most famous Woody Nelson song? Let me see what we got here. I feel like I could do a good impression of him. If I could buy some braids, like Willie Nelson hair, I think I could probably pull it off, don't you think? What do you guys think? Good-Hearted Woman, Roll Me Up, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. That's a good one. I feel like I could pull that one off.
Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. You know what? Does anyone want me to cover that? I'll take that. I'll take that today if you guys want. Not do it today, but I'll add it to my list if someone wants that. It's a 50. Flat 50. Bob chat preferred, by the way. Give them your money. I'm going to start throwing stuff. Thank you so much, Jack. Another 2. No food nutrients affects our... Oh, yeah, that makes sense, actually. I was wondering. I was like, dude, did you go off the rails? Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Let me hear it, actually. Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. You guys won't hear it because it's... Hold on. Oh, sweet. Yeah, that's in my range. Thank you, Vagine. I appreciate that. Blue eyes is crying in the rain. Oh, yeah, this is easy. New, never meet again. Oh, yeah, I could pull that off. That's a good one. I'm going to do it. I mean, I prefer someone purchase it, but I'll do it. It's a good one. Brokeback Willie. Poor guy. Poor guy. All right. Well, if you hear this after and you want that to be your song, I want to do it. So, just send a Bob chat and write Willie Nelson. Blue Eyes. Because no one bought the Blue Eyes yet, so. All right. Let's go over. Let's send you all to Mr. Dyer. Because, why? Because dispensationalism is horrifying. Did you guys see the meme, though? Actually, let me do the meme first. Ready? Here. Let's do the meme first. You guys didn't see this, probably, so. This is the meme I made. Let me make myself smaller. Or just move me over. So the little kid goes, look, the symbol of America. And then there's a zoom in, and it's the oigle. Look at his little nostril. Did you guys see that little Easter egg there? That little nostril? Yeah, I'm proud of that one. I'm proud of that one. That's a good... Them's a good one. All right, raid time. Raiden wins. Blue eyes crying in the rain. All right, I need to eat something. I'm starving. All right. Off to Jay's, the world of Jay. Wait, what? Blue lines crying in the rain. Bum, bum, bum. Jay Dyer. Dyer wave. Unmute, bro. Unmute, bro. All right. Well, that's it. Shorter stream today. Got a lot going on in my house. Got a lot to do. I hope you understand. Love you all. Thank you so much for the generous donations and memberships and comments and support and everything else, y'all. I really appreciate you. You guys keep this channel alive. You keep me thriving and going. I really appreciate all of you. With that, I'll see you over in Jay's chat. I think we're doing an Ortho Thugs tonight. It's only an hour, but it's members only. So if you want to see that, you got to get a membership. Terrestrial. You got to be a terrestrial member. With that, I bless you all. See you guys later. See you over at Jay's, okay?